The common misconception in the sense of being a stay-at-home dad, like you're talking about the roles, what do you do? And part of that misconception is that, my wife comes home from work and I'm, wearing an apron, baking a cake, which again, I wouldn't have a problem with, maybe I will get myself an apron. But, that's the misconception is that, I'm completely emasculated. I wear an apron and, I have Tupperware parties with the girls or the guys, you know what I'm saying? It's about redefining the role.
To give you a piece of my mind.
You already know what time it is. It's the Far From Normal Bros, and we back at it again. First of all, I'm going to need you to tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a mother effing friend to follow and subscribe to your boys. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other podcast platforms as well. You can catch us on YouTube and TikTok. That's Far From Normal Podcast. Make sure you type that into a search engine and see the boys on those clips. We got everything for you. We got the website, www.farfromnormalpodcast.com. We got all the links up there. Make sure you check it out. Of course, YouTube. We're on Instagram as well. That's far_from_normal_podcast. Check it out. You already know. It's your boy Fuzzy Vision. I see the world clear. And, I see the future. And the future is bright. You already know. Fuzzy Vision with 2 N's. If you have any likes, dislikes, rebuttals, or you want to be on the podcast, hit your boy up. Sonny, drop the handle, baby.
You already know what it is. It's your boy, Sonny Frames. You can catch me on the gram at Sonny, SONNY, Frames, double S at the end. Make sure when you do check out my Instagram page, check out my stories because I usually post a lot of stuff that has to do with motivation, inspiration, chasing your dream, and execution. So let's not forget, any dream that you're trying to achieve, the only way that you'll ever achieve it is through execution and putting a plan to motion. So make sure that you don't just stay in the dream world, and make sure you make it a reality.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
And Fuzzy, let's get him.
All right. You already know it's the Far From Normal Bros, and we back at it again. You already know it's the podcast. This is what we do. First of all, drop an applause. Drop an applause. We got to shout out the first times and last time listeners, those that are just tuning in, those that got put on to the podcast by others, whatever the case may be, whether you support it, whether you hate it, you listen. That's what it's all about. We're about starting a new conversation.
Yes, sir.
Making sure that, you can talk with your peers amongst yourselves and see whether our opinions are valid or whether the people on the panel's opinions are valid or not. So it's a good conversation starter, I'd say that much. And we have to shout out all the interviewees that have came on the podcast. Of course, we appreciate you all for your time and efforts, giving us your stories, making sure that, the quality of the podcast is here. So, Sonny, what you got to say on the matter?
I got to say the exact same thing. I definitely got to thank family and friends. I got to thank the haters and the lovers and everybody that supports us and the people that don't support us, but they're still tuning in. Definitely appreciate you guys because you guys have the most criticism, and that actually helps our podcast become better. So I can't really get mad at that because you are tuning in and you are very detail oriented. So that helps us get better at our craft, and it lets us go back into the lab and fix little deficiencies that we may have, and we're building as we fly it. So that's all I gotta say.
100%. And today we're going to get right into the topic. But first, we got to interview the guests that are going to be on today.
We got two panel members.
Two panel members are going to be on. First of all,
they're going to introduce themselves.
Yes.
So they're the special guests for today.
All right.
We're not going to say anything. They're going to come in. They're going to give us a brief description of themselves. They're going to tell us who they are. And then we're going to go from there.
Yes, sir. So first, we'll toss the camera over to that side.
All right.
So briefly introduce
First
yourself.
panel member, can you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Roger. Find me at RJ_Lambo on Instagram. First of all, I just want to thank you guys so much for having me on the podcast. Congratulate you guys on the success as well.
Respect.
Today's topic, speaking about gender equality and, going against stereotypes is something I'm very passionate about. So, as I mentioned before, I really have a lot to say. So, I'll hand it over to you guys to introduce our guests, and let's get straight into it.
All right, second guest.
Drop the bomb for that.
Woo! Second
guest. We got to swing it over to our second guest, special guest today, and yeah, briefly introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Whatever, even your Instagram. If there's certain points of references you want people to know you from, you can go ahead and say it.
For sure.
So
yes, hello everyone. My name is Lachelle. I'm an entrepreneur, so I work in finance. I'm an advisor. I do clothing. I have a clothing line, and I'm also a singer.
Singer, wow.
Wow.
Yes, and I was kind of thrown into this podcast. I didn't know about it. Was last minute, but it's gonna be fun.
Here you are.
Here you are.
Well, we do appreciate you joining in, and it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be a interesting dynamic to see 2 point of views, both of the genders, when it comes to gender role switches. So that's going to be very interesting to just see your thought process on the whole conversation that we're about to have today.
Yeah, so without any further ado, we're going to jump right into the topic. So today we're going to talk about redefining gender roles. So today on the panel, we introduced 2 of our panel guests. So we'll start with Roger. So today's topic is going to be about gender roles when it comes to relationships and what's expected out of a relationship. Whether a woman or a man makes a certain amount of money, does the roles change? Do they stay the same? Do we stick to the traditional, or do we go unconventional when things seem to be changing, especially as times go on? As we see, a lot of the times in this day and age, women will make equal or more than men. And that's what they usually vie after. That's usually what they go after. So today we're going to talk to Roger and Lachelle. We're going to discuss basically gender roles. And Roger has some experiences that may be different than some men. So we wanted to talk about being a stay-at-home father. So today's topic is going to be about stay-at-home father and the male's perspective. A lot of the times when we're talking about having a child and cultivating a family, the man is expected to be the breadwinner. He's expected to go out there and hunt, per se. So with that being said, both men and women recognize this generally due to movies, media, parents, whatever the culture, all these different aspects will always play its role. But I want to know, in your situation, Roger, I want you to talk about, what is a stay-at-home dad? What does that really entail to you, especially that you're a guy that watches after his kid for a majority of the time? And since that's a different role, can you describe what that means to be a stay-at-home father?
Absolutely. So I'm very proud of what I do. I'm a stay-at-home father. Essentially, it is a profession. It's my profession right now. And it took me a while really to understand that it is a job. It is a profession. Whenever I introduce myself to people, say, "Oh, what do you do?" I say, "Oh, I don't really work right now." And after a while, I kind of reflected on that. And if you ask me the same question today, I said, actually, I'm a stay-at-home dad. That's my job. And I take it seriously as if it were a profession. I've learned so much from it as a profession. I can easily say today it's the hardest job I've ever done in my life. It's the hardest job I'm doing in my life. I've learned so many skills that I can transfer once I go back into the job market.
Okay.
Things like dedication, things like going above and beyond, things I never used to do in any of my previous jobs. I've learned that I have to do it as a father. So you asked me as well about, what it entails to be a stay-at-home father. I'll tell you a little bit about my day-to-day.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. The bread and butter right there.
It's interesting and it's unconventional.
Okay.
Today, I consider myself, a member of the modern family.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, 100%.
Gender roles are changing. Today, that's what we represent. My family is the modern family. So, just to give you sort of some context, my son is 2.5 now. And when he was born, my wife was on maternity leave. And she had, I think in Ontario or in Canada, you can either do 12 months or 18 months. So we opted for 12 months. And after about the 10th month, we started to notice, things were a little bit tight. Like, you get unemployment. That's what women are paid. And there's a ceiling on it. So it doesn't matter if you make $10,000 to $15,000 a month as your net salary, you're only getting about $2,000 a month. So that's difficult because you're in a period where you're earning less money, but your costs are going up.
Yes.
So at about the 10-month mark, we kind of made the decision that my wife would go back to work, and she's always earned more than me since we've been together. So we decided she would go back to work, and I would stay at home with my son. So typically, how our day looks is I'll get up around 7 o'clock. I'll get up a little bit before my son and my wife get up. I'll make breakfast for everybody, which is usually pancakes. I usually pack my son's snack for school, so I'll make him some fruits, some crackers, and all that stuff. I get his clothes ready.
What about your wife? Do you pack her lunch as well, or? I just need to know.
I know that's a serious question, actually, man. But it's just
know, bro. I need to know how that dynamic works.
Yes. No,
I need to get deep inside there, man.
No. Generally, I don't pack my wife's lunch.
Okay,
But to be
okay.
honest, I wouldn't have a problem with doing that.
Okay,
Just that
all right.
the structure of her work and stuff. Sometimes they go out for lunches and that kind of thing. So,
Okay.
So
yeah.
either she doesn't take a lunch, or sometimes she just grabs her own lunch. But I'd be more than happy to do
Okay,
it
all
if I
right.
had to.
All right.
Okay.
So I have a question. So in terms of your own personal interests and your own self-care, how do you incorporate that while you're taking care of a child? How does that work?
It's very difficult.
And then I'm gonna send it to Lachelle right after that.
Yeah, sure. It's very difficult, and I think it's a great point to touch on specifically. Especially since after COVID and these kind of topics like self-care and so on.
Yeah.
Mental health
Yes,
becomes so
yes.
important. And I'll say that's probably been one of the hardest parts of the job I do, man. It's actually finding time to take care of myself, time for myself. Like I'll tell you, literally, I have no time for myself.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like I was working 3 nights doing a security job as
Yeah.
well, just to bring some extra cash. And there would be days where, I drop my wife off in the morning, I drop my son at daycare, or let's say if he doesn't go to daycare, I'll be taking care of him during the day. So I spend the whole day with him from let's say 9 o'clock in the morning when my wife goes to work until sometimes she comes home at 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So literally the whole day. And that means changing diapers. That means putting him for his nap time.
Wow.
That means making lunch. That means entertaining him, teaching him, which is one of the most important aspects.
Yeah.
So that's a hell of a lot of work, man. The only window I have for myself during the day is a 2-hour period when he naps, of which one of those hours I have to use, to take a shower, do my necessities, all that kind of stuff. And then the second hour I have to start making lunch for when he wakes up. So really, I have it's a selfless job, man. I have no time for myself.
Wow.
Yep.
So, the nights when my wife comes back at 8 o'clock at night, my shifts usually starts at 9 o'clock. I'll be working security. So as soon as my day is done, I have to go out to work until 3 o'clock in the morning, rinse and repeat. Come back 3 in the morning, exhausted, get up at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day.
Do it again.
Do it all over again.
Wow.
Now, that's not every single day because, like I said, the security work is part-time. So maybe 3 nights, I cut down to 2 nights now because it's just exhausting.
Yeah.
But to get back to your point about self-care, I've been trying to take some time now to organize my time better, to work out,
Okay.
to try and read a little bit.
Okay.
And I'll be very honest, actually, what's been helping me a lot is therapy, actually.
Oh, really? Wow.
I've been doing therapy for let's say 3 years maybe. And the way my therapy is structured these days is that my therapist is more like a coach really than anything.
Wow.
My therapist helps me sort of organize. She kind of opened my eyes to the fact that sometimes I say, oh my God, I have no time to do anything. And she tells me, Rod, you actually have time. If you just organize your day a little bit better, if you structure your time a little bit better, you'll see that you have time to be productive and do things. So that's really what's been really helping me a lot. And in terms of self-care, like I said, I try to read now, go to the gym. I like to take little courses and just do stuff to better myself, to feel as if I'm growing,
Okay. So, Lachelle, what do you think about all of this? All the information that you just, listened to? What's your thoughts?
Honestly, to each their own. Everyone has to, if you're in a relationship, you're going to have to work it out between your partner of how you feel comfortable, right? So if your wife is comfortable with that, then that's all that matters. And if,
So where do you stand on that? All right, so if you were the breadwinner, first of all, would you be okay with being the breadwinner in your own household? Let's start with that.
would I be okay with being the breadwinner?
Yeah, so you're making the majority of...
Realistically, most women would prefer to have a man take care of them.
But I mean, we're
me-
modern day now. We're modern day, so we got to talk about the whole equality system that feminists have been pushing, and how we're all equal, and now the women are making more money than the men, and they're having a better educational. Their
Is
education's
this
a lot.
standard thing? Like, is a lot of
No, I mean this is
women making more
what's.
than the man?
No, I'm saying this is what they're pushing. This is the narrative on the news. That's what they're covering, right? How much is true, I'm not too sure, but that's what's being pushed in this society. So, but you don't agree with that, right? Is that right?
No,
Or
I'm saying it's
Okay.
whatever fits whoever, right? But for me, I was raised in a way where my mom was like, make sure you have your education, make sure you're making your own type of money, right?
okay,
But in the Black community especially, we see a lot of women who are single mothers and so forth. So for me, I mean, I don't know, it's just like, I'm not married right now. I don't have kids right now.
yeah,
So my situation is like, I'm single.
Mhm.
So it's giving me insight to look and see, like, you know, what would the situation be if I was the breadwinner? But am I okay with it? Would I want that? Would I choose that? Probably not.
Okay,
I probably wouldn't choose to be the woman who's making the most out of between me and my partner, and then I have to, you know, and then he's a stay-at-home dad. I respect it, but would I choose it? Ideally, I don't think so. But if I was in love with my partner, if I find someone and I think, you know what I mean, I'm in love with him, and it just so happens that he ended up being a stay-at-home dad or guy who makes less than me, then I guess I would kind of work with it, but I wouldn't choose that.
so
Sorry, do you mind if I
yeah, go right
jump
ahead.
in.
So here's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, I mean, obviously, I respect your opinion. Thank you for sharing it. But here's some of the issues I have with, you know, what you say. I hear a lot of people say that in society. First of all, by saying I wouldn't want, you're already limiting yourself. You're already limiting the amount of money you can possibly make. Because if the man you fall in love with, he makes $100,000 a year, you're saying I don't want to earn. I'd rather my man earns more money than me. So technically, what you're saying is you earn less than $100,000 a year because that's what your partner is making. Like, again, so like I said, you're automatically limiting yourself. Secondly, you say, you know, what people are more comfortable with. It's not, I don't see it as an issue of comfort. I see it as an issue of necessity. I'm not comfortable living in a city that's minus 20 degrees, but right now this is my necessity. This is where I have to live. And me slipping into this role of being a stay-at-home father, it's about necessity. I love what I do, but it's about necessity. And, you know, I don't know if Sonny, you were going to bring this up a little bit later, but again, this is just something that, you know, I know that I hear a lot from a lot of guys is, you know, guys say, oh, I can never be with a woman that makes more money than me.
Yeah, we were gonna touch on that. Yeah, a little later on.
Okay.
We'll
yeah,
touch on that.
Slow
But,
down then.
Yeah,
but I did want to get back to the shell there.
yeah.
And I wanted to talk about why do you think women prefer, I'd say majority of women prefer men to make equal or more money than themselves?
I think it's just a natural thing that, like, for instance, I was talking to someone who was earning, he just wasn't earning as much as me, and he felt very emasculated when I would speak about what I was doing at work or just the business side of things. He was like, I don't want to hear about it. He wants to feel like, a lot of men want to feel like they run the show, they earn the most, they call the shots kind of thing. And I don't know, like, I was talking to someone even this week, and he's just like, I'm the man of the house. So when it comes to cooking, cleaning, whatever it is, I'm not doing that. I'm paying for everything in this house.
But not to interrupt you, I want to talk about why women prefer that, because you're saying reasons why the
Men.
man might not like that. But I'm wondering why women prefer that, because now the ball's put in the woman's court.
Okay.
So the woman has more she has more advantages in terms of dictating what the relationship can look like, because if she's making a certain amount of money, she has more ability to have input in that relationship in terms of the structure of it. So it's up to the woman to decide what type of structure she's willing to put up with. Now, if she's a career woman and she's making a lot of money, spent a lot of time going to school, doing what she needed to do, would it be fair for her to stop working and do housewife duties? Like, say, for example, if you became a doctor, would it be fair for you to do housewife duties when you put in all that work and, you know, you made a career out of it and you're making good money, you're in a good situation, and at the sacrifice of that is that your man is not making the same amount, and that he's able to take care of the child just like how a woman would take care of the child. So why is that an issue to modern women in this day and age when they are making more? I'm not saying all of them are making more than all the men, but what I'm saying is there's a lot more women making more than their counterparts, their male counterparts. But why is it such a struggle for women to conform to a different ideology of a relationship?
I don't, it's not that. Like, as I said, to each their own. And if I was in love with someone and that's how it played out, then that's how it plays out. But it's just naturally, women, we carry the baby, we breastfeed, we feel more inclined to do that set of work. Naturally, just as I'm saying, like the man I was talking to this week, he was saying, I'm not doing the dishes. I'm not cooking. That's just not something I feel comfortable doing. So to each their own. Like, if you have a man who's willing to do that, then it could work. But I mean, it's just a natural thing that naturally, I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know how you guys feel, but do you guys cook? Do you guys clean? Are you gonna change diapers?
So okay,
Like,
so if we're talking about us personally, I'm also in agreement to what you're saying. But what I'm looking at is how society is being ran in North America in general. Right now, women are taking the lead in certain things, like in terms of, their parents are pushing them, get an education, get a career. So the question I need to ask is, what is that all for? If you want a man to be the breadwinner at the end of the day, you want that guy to be paying the lion's share. What does that all represent at the end of the day? Because you don't need like a crazy education if the man is going to be the breadwinner. He's going to be the provider. He's going to be the protector. You don't need a crazy education. You just need the basic foundation, and then understand the housely duties of a woman in order to, if that's the role if they want their man to play the male role, then the woman would have to play certain roles. Like, although, like, even my mother, she's not a stay-at-home mom, but she also has a career, but like the wifely duties are embedded because the way she was brought up, those are embedded in her, like in her head. So she knows how, even if she goes to work and works like crazy hours or whatever, she's still gonna go home, and she's gonna still be in the kitchen. She's gonna be cleaning. She's gonna be doing the whole nine. So right, she's like a super mom. But I think in Western society, there's women that I know that if they're playing the role of the career woman and they have a great education, they don't want to be in the kitchen no more. They don't want to be doing the cleaning. Yeah. They want to do something more, but then at the end of the day, they still want their man to be the breadwinner and be the head of the household. So I'm always confused at how that works, that whole dynamic.
For me, as I said, I'm not married and I'm not I don't have kids. But for me, I wouldn't want to be a stay-at-home mom.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to not work, right?
Okay.
So it's always going to be, I'm working, my man does his part as well. We're both contributing to the household. If I do have to like take time off of work because I'm on mat leave, and then for whatever reason, if I end up being a stay-at-home mom, it's better for him to obviously make more money than me, and he could take care of everything.
Okay.
So I want to switch over the conversation back to Roger. I want to talk about, how does the division of labor in your household work? Because that's something that people are going to be curious about. When you're a stay-at-home dad, does that just mean you're watching a child and doing things for the child? Because that's just one aspect of a stay-at-home, father or mother, because there's the child. Of course, that's the main priority, is to take care of them, make sure they're doing good, eating, teaching, as you mentioned. But when it comes to your day-to-day duties, household duties, because taking care of a child is one duty, and that's only recognized as one duty. There's other duties and things that have to be accomplished, of course, in the day, whether it's cleaning a washroom, sweeping up, cleaning what you've cooked. If you made a meal, now you got to clean it up, I'd assume. So how does that work in terms of the division of labor with you and your wife? Is it a conversation? Is it something that was just you do what you can? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. that's a great question. We just kind of ran with it and saw what each was comfortable doing, given each of our primary duties, like me taking care of my son, sorry, my wife working, and then what each person could take on top of that. Just to backtrack a little bit to the previous point.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about women growing in the workplace. And stuff. In the last 20 years, women have surpassed men in terms of achieving bachelor's degrees in college and stuff. So what we are seeing a shift in the workplace of women, reaching those higher managerial positions and in a lot of cases out earning men. So that's also another reason why, I'm part of this shift now. To go back to your point, there's a common misconception in the sense of being a stay-at-home dad. Like you're talking about the roles, what do you do? And part of that misconception is that, my wife comes home from work and I'm, wearing an apron, baking a cake. You know what I'm saying? Which, again, I wouldn't have a problem with, maybe I will get myself an apron. But, that's the misconception is that, I'm completely emasculated. I wear an apron and, I have Tupperware parties with the girls or the guys. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily about switching genders, that I'm now doing a female role and she's doing a male role. It's about taking on that new role. It's about switching the role. It's about redefining the role.
So it's basically not making it gender specific. It's just you're doing what you need to do to make your family move forward.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you're redefining the role, not switching the role.
Yeah, not switching the role. I think that's where a lot of people get it confused.
Exactly.
They're thinking about, switching the role where like the woman, I think this is how a lot of women think. It's like they feel like they're becoming a man by doing the work. And then the guy feels like he's becoming a woman.
Exactly.
So we're both trying to fight against that gender role, because again, like you said, and it's a common opinion to many men that if you're a stay-at-home father, you must be more feminine, or you must not have, you must lack masculinity.
I can see people like
people have this
that
opinion.
message,
but I'll tell you, no, that's the point. And I'll tell you what, that's not the case at all. Like we can touch more on. I know you want to talk about earning more money and stuff like that. We can touch on it. There was a point I wanted to make in regards to that. But my wife, she doesn't see me as being emasculated in any way. I don't see myself being emasculated in any way. In terms of the actual roles that we do in the house. So it's take care of my son, as I mentioned. Whatever I cook, I clean up afterwards, put stuff in the dishwasher. My wife, to be honest, she handles most of the cleaning stuff. Yeah. So on the weekends, she usually clean the house and sweep up. That kind of stuff. But I do try and help out in terms of the cleaning and maintaining. In terms of the actual taking care of my son, as I mentioned, there's, the physical aspect, changing diapers, so on and so forth. But then there's the educational aspect as well. It's the nurturing part of it as well, which I in my mind, I see as one of the most important, activities of the job. I'm very like a pushover with my son. I believe I'm very in touch with my feelings. I tell my son probably 2 or 3 times a day that daddy loves him. Daddy loves you. I tell him 3 times a day. And the way I see it is, I know it might seem a little bit, corny in some ways, but I'm contributing to a better world. I'm contributing to a world in which my son is going to grow up and he's going to have a relationship with his father where he can tell his father he loves him. He can relate. He can tell men how he feels about them, even his friends. He's not afraid to express his feelings. Yeah. And that ultimately is going to improve the type of relationship he has with women as well. He's going to be more in touch with his feelings. He's going to be able to express himself better. So, as I said, I take the job extremely seriously. And I think these little things of nurturing, your kid, they go very far. You had asked me before about sort of an anecdote about, taking care of my kid and some of the activities. I make him these little fruit salads. I make him fruit salads where I put different fruits in it, like grapes, strawberries, watermelons, and I watch him when I put it in front of him. And sometimes he reaches for the grape, and then he turns back and he reaches for the watermelon instead. And I think he's demonstrating a thought process. He's demonstrating that he was going to pick one thing, but he chose to pick something else instead. And then I start thinking of activities that I can do to nurture that thought process. How can I show him from a young age that choices have consequences and, there's a rationale involved in making a choice? How can I help him make better choices? So, honestly, there's a science behind this, man. Sometimes I think I should even do courses, in child psychology and stuff to learn more.
That's quite interesting because I'm just looking at my own family dynamic and how my father was when we were being raised as boys. And my father was not that sympathetic lover. Hey, I love you, son. I love you, man. So yeah, there was none of that. It was tough love. It was
Yeah,
you know,
different parenting
it was
styles.
it was a different parenting style. It was more you're still crying? How old are you? Like, you know what I mean? Look at you. You're still going to your mother at this age. You should be ashamed of yourself. You know, be a man. Like, I mean, that was his parenting style.
Absolutely.
And it helped me as a man because that made me harder. It made me more, I have a more tougher exterior and I'm able to do a lot of hard stuff, right? A lot of people can't do because it's like they're looking at me like, how are you able to do this? Because my father wasn't like patting me on the back, even if I did well or something, you know, he'll look and be, yeah, okay.
No, for sure.
You know,
Like,
and move on. Yeah, that was one thing. Okay. Cheer, yeah, you could clap yourself up, but we move on. Let's go, right?
I respect that. I respect that completely. I think, and you know, right now my son is very young, so there is a point where I'm gonna have to be, and I plan to be a lot more strict with him. You know, in terms of my own upbringing, you know, I was born in Brazil. My mother's Brazilian. My father is half Nigerian, half English. So, you know, I had that. You know, he also gave that kind of really strict African you know, upbringing as well. You know, where discipline was key.
Yeah.
But today, you know, can I say that it's made me a better person as opposed to, you know, being nurtured in the ways that I am with my son? I can't say. I can't honestly say that, you know, having that kind of upbringing has made me so tough, you know, in a way that my son can't be just because I'm a little bit softer on him.
Okay, that's interesting. So, Lachelle, what's your thoughts on that conversation that we just had about, you know, his whole that whole dynamic with father and son, and when you have kids, would you want your child to be, you know, are you gonna coddle him, or would you want the father to coddle him, or would you want just one individual to coddle and then one more on the tougher side and be more stern?
Yeah, I think having the balance is important. As I said, like my mom, she raised us doing. My dad wasn't really in the picture.
Oh, okay.
But I did have a stepfather.
Okay.
And he was more strict. So I'm not I'm not really for a parent being like overly strict to the point where it could be kind of abusive. But
when you say abusive, what's your
just like,
definition of abuse?
My stepdad is actually African, and I know that Africans, they're very tough.
They are tough. They're tough.
Very, very tough.
Yeah.
They can say very mean things and harsh things sometimes, and then being brought up in Canada where, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I even see a lot of Black people on social media talk about, like, you know, parents shouldn't say certain things to their kids because it has kind of an effect on how they grow up. Like,
but I also look at Canada as a soft country, to be quite honest. So I mean, a lot of people do around the world. So I definitely don't subscribe to their message and how a child should be raised, because I look around and I just see like degenerates everywhere, and I'm like, definitely this can't occur in my household because of the parents I had. So I'm not gonna sit there and say, oh yeah, you know, he was a little too tough. I now
not
growing
too tough. Being tough and having discipline, that's okay. But when you start, you know, saying things that are,
but that's how it
very,
starts, right? Okay, if I don't know how extreme it is on your case, but there's some stuff that like my father would say.
But a lot of people are complaining about it. Not just, you know, a lot of people complain about it.
Yeah. No, they definitely have no filter.
Well, it's not even no filter. It's different culture, different upbringing. So they just learn different, right? It doesn't make it right or wrong, and it doesn't make what you learned here or see here due to media or other people's parents right or wrong neither, right? So the child's success won't be based necessarily just on that anyways, right? So that's, parenting is always going to be up and down challenge. So always people, it's going to be relative. Tough love is good on certain kids, and then others, you know, destroys their self-esteem.
Yeah.
And then they lack confidence and stuff.
Exactly,
and so
and that's what I'm referring to.
Exactly.
Yes,
so you're going to get both sides. I think it's culturally sometimes you get that, but it's at the end of the day, you're in a, you know, North American part of the world, then it's completely different from them. So sometimes for parents, even with us, with how our parent was it right? No, not necessarily. But at the end of the day, it's what they knew. And then usually what you know is what you preach, right? So as long as they know one way they're only going to go off that one way unless they decide to do the research. Most people don't, especially if they're coming from a different side of the world.
Yeah.
They usually isolate themselves to that culture.
Mhm.
They don't open up themselves unless you're born here, like us, where we can see things in a different perspective. They may never have that opportunity to change perspectives. That's just how the things roll with different cultures and all that. But I do want to get back to the topic at hand. So talking about the whole stay-at-home father aspect, because, again, you're going to have two sides of this coin. You're going to have people that, say, you know what, this is great. This is great to, see men step up when necessary in a different way, in a way to provide more so nurturing to the child. I think a lot of people think that men aren't capable of doing this, which are incapable of doing this. And I remember I seen something on like Netflix. It was like a documentary on, it was trying to talk about the gender roles and the difference between the gender roles. So it was discussing whether the mother needs to be there to nurture or whether the father needs to be there. Is there a difference? And when they're going through it, there wasn't too much of a huge difference in terms of the development of the child, whoever stayed at home or whoever nurtured. Of course, women have it in their heads that because I, had the child, I carried the child with me, I have a deeper emotional bond. This is what women have in their heads, that they have a deeper emotional bond and that they only can be the ones to nurture their child. Where I think that, with studies and also with just people changing gender roles, there's many times in relationships where the roles are changed, but the child's nurturing will be equal or even better. It doesn't necessarily matter on who's doing what role within the relationship. It just matters on, caring for the child, being there for the child, teaching the children certain, lessons in life or teaching them how to do certain things. It doesn't change necessarily just on the biological front. Of course, you're breastfeeding as a woman, but some women don't breastfeed. They'll use baby formula or something like that, something artificial. So they're still not getting that bond where a man can make baby formula too. What's the difference? So I think that's where a lot of women get it confused, and men get it confused too, because men don't want to play that role just because of traditional aspects. But one thing I'll say is that I think, women should be more open to having an unconventional relationship than, say, men. The only reason I'm saying this is because a lot of the times the conversation about women is this equality and wanting to be equal in terms of pay and respect and different aspects when it comes to like the social realm and the business realm of things. So at what point are they going to have to, change themselves in terms of what they've seen in the past? And because I'm under the impression a lot of women that, may not decide to have, say, a stay-at-home father or a guy, or look for a man that would be willing to do that, is because the stigma that comes with that, right? So if you come home with a man that's making less than you, do you think your parents would be proud of that? Do you think that's a conversation that your parents would accept if you were making more and he's making less?
Ideally, probably not. Like, everyone, most people have a similar view, but I don't know why you guys keep making it like women don't want this. And I think it's more the men who are like, I have to be the head honcho. Like,
the reason I said that, because, we asked you the question, why did you prefer that a man makes equal or more than you?
No, I said that I'm open to however it goes.
No, but you said primary, so basically
you said
if I
by
was
your
to
instinct
choose-
and
if I
natural,
was
you
to
choose
'cause
that.
Right now, I'm single
yeah,
and I don't have kids and I'm not married.
yeah.
So that's I don't have a situation right now. So if it goes the way where it's like, well, I meet someone and I fall in love and it ends up that way, then it is what it is. We'll work it out. But if I was to choose, I would not choose that.
So the reason why I'm going based off what you're choosing, it's the equivalent of, let's say you get into a relationship and you said that personally, I don't want to have children. But for the case of if I have a boyfriend and he wants to have a child, or if I have a husband and he wants to have a child, I might bend, I might accept it. I don't really want to, but so like initially what your thoughts are is not really what you're getting. So I'm going based off what you actually want, not having to compromise what you want to bend to the other person's will to a certain degree. So that's why we're saying based off what you actually want.
If I'm in love with someone, that's completely different. So
But the thing
I don't
with
know,
love,
you guys are backing me in a corner where it's like then that's what you want. It's like
No, it's not. It's not about backing you in the corner. It's about it's just about what you prefer, and it's just about your
and that's okay.
idealistic
Like,
situation.
He wouldn't prefer. He doesn't prefer this. They just worked out their kinks, right? It's the same thing.
Yes, they worked out their kinks. You're absolutely right about that. He worked out with his woman on what their arrangement would be, but I think you have to have that open mindedness. If you don't have that open mindedness, well, again, like idealistically, you'd want your man to make.
I would prefer.
Yes.
And if I fell in love and it just wasn't that, then it wasn't that. So that's me compromising. That's
Okay.
me open minded, right?
Can I just jump in? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why do you prefer?
No. The preference is preference. So I'm not gonna ask why you prefer.
Why I prefer if you want, but
No. Preference is preference. I mean, if let's say if I'm interested in a big woman, like an obese woman, there's no explanation to that. There's just like I'm interested in obese women. Like that's just what it is. I don't need to explain I don't need to explain why that's my preference or whatever. But the point of the matter is that you don't need to explain your preference. If that's what you prefer, that's what you prefer. So the actual question is, see, the thing about love is faint, and it's up and down, it's volatile. So it's a feeling. Love doesn't last forever. That's not what holds marriages together. Usually what holds marriages together is a commitment and duty. That's what holds marriages together, not love. Because you can love somebody, and let's say they're in a position where love is not going to pay the bills.
Absolutely.
Right? So you could be in love and be like, I love this person, but this person's a bum. He doesn't make any money at all. He's lazy. He lacks ambition. He lacks ambition. He's a gamer. He's just at home playing video games all day. You know what I mean? He's content with his life. He's living in his mother's basement.
But he treats you well.
But he treats you well, and you love this guy. But that's not
necessary.
There's
certain non-negotiables that I
okay.
have, obviously.
See, now we're talking.
Now we're talking.
Now we got it.
Now we just got in there. There we go. There we go. You see? There we go.
And that's what we're talking about, because again, love, it's vague, because love, we're understanding. I'll say my own opinion on this. With love, it's conditional as much as we want to say it's unconditional. And if you think love's going to overwhelm every single scenario, it's not. It's not, because if love was that case, then you can take someone dead broke if love was there. Yeah. But that would never make sense to you, because we use our rationale as humans, not just emotion. We know acting on emotion is a bad bet for a lot of cases, because a lot of the times we love what's wrong for us. At the end of the day, you think what? Drug addicts love the drug because it's not right for them, but they love that feeling they're getting from it. So it doesn't necessarily...
Gambling addicts.
All the dopamine rushes you get from certain things, even having sex, you get that dopamine rush. So you might think that was love. Whatever we did last night, that was love. Like, that's where your head is at. But that's sometimes blinded, that's clouded, sometimes by different aspects of things you want to believe in. And even, with lies and all that stuff that comes along with, smoothing out the situation, making it a perfect scenario for yourself, you're gonna fall for that. But I think the biggest thing when it comes to love is that it's fleeting. So we understand that in any relationship, for the man or the woman, there's gonna have to be terms and conditions that are gonna have to be abided by. And if they're not, you're not gonna be happy within that relationship. So you can put up with it to deal with the guy and say, okay, fine, he makes less than me, but you know what? He loves me, takes care of me, does everything I need to do. But our lifestyle is not where I want it to be.
So
he's not providing enough for the lifestyle I want to live. I'm able to do it, but I want him to step up. So now do you try and change the man, or do you leave him as be? Because you love him. So is there a sense of leaving the relationship, or do you try and upgrade the man? What would
Yeah.
you do?
I would see if he's open to upgrading. I've been in a situation like this.
Mm.
It's the same one I was telling you guys about, and he's like,
Mm.
I don't want to talk about business stuff because it was emasculating for him.
Mm.
And he also was like, oh, I don't want a business partner. I just want you to fulfill your role as
Oh,
a
wow.
female. And
Wow.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I am a very
Jesus Christ.
business-minded person.
Okay.
And like, I'm very forward thinking. And if me and my partner, you know, like I'm open to trying different things. So if
Okay.
he's at a financial level and we could level it up,
Mm.
then we're going to discuss that, and we're going to try to find ways to get him, to boost him up. And then we, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Yep.
But like things like that, I'm 100% for. Like, I'm not one of those girls who are like, oh, like my man. First of all, a lot of women are being very unrealistic when if they think that there's a man, there's a lot of men out here that are willing to just pay for everything, and
Mm.
it's not like that. Like there's not a lot of that. So I don't know where these ideologies are coming
Yeah.
from,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not realistic. Like
Mm.
I work in the finance industry, I see a lot. And
Yeah. So speaking of the financial industry and the female ratio to male ratio, like how do you navigate through that?
it's very male dominated.
Yes. Okay. Mm.
I don't know. I don't really think of it too much. I think just, in general, being a Black woman, there's obviously so many things that we have to fight through. So I'm kind of like numb to it.
Okay.
It's just like, it's another day. I have to do what I have to do kind of thing. So
See.
So I wanted to swing it back to Roger.
Yeah, I was gonna
This-
say the same thing.
the whole thing about love, because I want to hear Roger's opinion when it comes to love. Because of course, you'd be in love with your wife, you get married, and you fell in love in order to get married and start your family. But even I want to get your opinion on the whole love aspect, because I know you have that feeling of love, but I wanna know, in terms of when you think of your relationship and you think of love, do you understand that it comes with conditions?
In what sense? Sort of,
Well, I
She's
think
gonna have expectations for you.
expectations are certain.
Certain
there-
aspects of the life.
conditions mean that when you're in a relationship with somebody, there has to be benefit to that person. You don't get in a relationship with somebody that doesn't benefit you in some type of way. It could be emotionally, it can be financially, it can be spiritually. There's ways that they're benefiting your life. They're making your life better. Anyone that gets in a relationship, if the person making your life worse, that's a bad relationship. A good relationship is a relationship that benefits you and helps elevate you.
Of course.
So when it comes to love and understanding love, it comes with conditions, in my opinion. So this is just my opinion, where I'm coming from. So when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to love and conditions, do you understand that on the opposite side of the spectrum, so from your wife's point of view, that she views certain things as a condition to love? Like,
Of
for
course,
example,
faithfulness.
yes, exactly. Like,
Fidelity,
so
of
so
course.
you hit the nail on the head right there, like faithfulness. So do you think there's conditions when it comes to love?
Absolutely. There's a lot of conditions. One of my conditions, however, is not a tax bracket. My
Okay.
condition for being with my wife is not that she makes a certain amount of money
Mm.
and I don't make a certain amount of money, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And that, again, that attitude, not to disrespect anybody here, I just find it very silly.
Yeah.
To put sort of a figure. No, this person needs to make more than me. This person needs to make less than me. If you're putting a condition of let's say a certain earning amount on your relationship, then that's basically, you need money because you need to dominate the relationship. Your relationship is no longer based on love, respect, but it's based on domination. Well, I make more money and I need to make more money because I need to be able to have a way to manipulate this person and dominate this person. If you as a man don't feel emasculated, you feel emasculated because you're earning less money. Like, in my mind, that's just two things. It's either ignorance, in the literal sense of the word, that either you've just not been exposed to many other situations, or you just haven't sort of educated yourself enough, or it's just, again, it's a fragile masculinity. That's what I honestly believe. Because, this whole, so I know you guys we're going to talk about, making more money or making less less money, but I might just automatically just go.
No, you can go right into it. Go right into it. Yeah,
Because
we'll talk about it.
again, the misconception is that this person makes more money. My wife makes more money than me. Therefore, again, I'm wearing an apron. Therefore, she comes home and she tells me what to do. She's a boss at work, so she's a boss at home. Now, in my mind, personally, I call that a misconception because what I've seen from observing my wife is that women that are very successful in the workplace, and especially in industries that are dominated by men, they can't afford to be weak at work. They have to constantly put a strong image up at work. They can't be seen crying. They can't be seen as vulnerable. They can't be seen as weak. So what are they looking for in a partner? They're looking exactly for that. They're looking for a safe space where they can be weak and they can be vulnerable. And that's where I come in. That's what I need to do. I need to give my wife that one space where she can cry, where she can express weakness, where she doesn't have to always be tough.
See, I find that interesting because my thing is a woman being in an environment where she has to constantly be clawing and fighting and trying to get to the top and making sure that there's no flaws and they don't see the weak aspects of her character and stuff of that nature, and she has to be hard. You believe those characteristics don't get transferred when they go back home? You believe that just stays at work? That doesn't trickle down to other aspects of their life?
No, I believe it stays at work. I believe it stays at work because I believe in the duality of human beings. I believe that you can be an introvert and an extrovert. I believe that we're all multifaceted, which means you can be very, very strict and tough at work, but you can also have your soft side, which comes out, at home. The qualities that my wife displays at work that relate to that strictness, that toughness, when she brings that home, those are the qualities that also benefit us because when we need to make tough decisions, she's able to think rationally. Sometimes, we might make one that may be a difficult decision, and I'm thinking one way. She can present a different side of the story. She can be very rational. That's a quality from her work that she's bringing home.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that those characteristics that she has at work, it's still going to come home.
Sure.
Well, it's just like a male. If a male is ambitious and he's doing all these things at work and he's career driven or whatever field he's in and he's dominating, he's going to go back home and he's going to bring that same type of energy. In some shape or form, it's going to show because it's a part of them. That it's just like it's a trigger, like certain aspects of their life when they have to be on go mode or they have to be the man or they have to be the woman. It's just going to click. It's just going to automatically, they're just going to get into that mode, and it's going to be because that's the role that they typically play.
Possibly. You might be right. I don't know. I just think I don't know enough, let's say, ultra successful people to affirm that,
okay.
Or, to be able to confirm that. It's quite possible, people who are really performing at that high level.
Yeah.
They may, it may be part of their personality. I don't know. Elon Musk, when he's at home, I don't know if he's, he may still be that very sort of, or Donald Trump, that very sort of obnoxious, driven by success and passion. It's hard to tell.
Hard to tell, 100%.
So we're coming to wrap up this podcast episode. I definitely want to hear your. We're gonna do a concluding statement or any advice, any final words to this podcast. What you thought of it and what you thought about the topic itself. Let's start with Lachelle.
Yes. Okay. So I do have some final thoughts.
Okay.
This is something that came to my mind like a few times in my lifetime. So with women being dominant women, working, let's say, for instance, like single mothers.
Okay.
I find that a lot of single mothers, they have a lot of attitude or frustrations from being that, having so much pressure on their shoulders. So, and a lot in today's age, I hear a lot of men talking about they want femininity. They want submissive women. How do you get that if there's so much demand on the woman? And this is not anything in specific to your situation because obviously you guys have your thing resolved or whatever, but that's a very important thing to consider. If you want a submissive woman, you're going to have to make sure that she has less burdens or responsibilities to get that softer side.
No, you're definitely right on that sense. But the thing is, unfortunately, in society, how it works is people unfortunately don't make the adjustment. So whatever's presented to them is what they're going to see, and either they're going to go for it or they're not going to go for it. So let's say a man is looking for a submissive woman. If they meet a woman that's aggressive, they're going to automatically X her out. And it's not that the woman that's aggressive is bad or anything of that nature. It's just that doesn't fit his that won't fit in his world. The way he's trying to conduct his life and how he's trying to make things happen, that type of energy is not what he wants to invite into his life, right? So unfortunately, they're going to have to find a way to navigate through that and make the adjustments possible so that men would be more open to, oh yeah, okay, single mother, I'm going to come in, step in. But it has to be in a way where the man can see that, no, I can see a future with this woman. You know, she's not giving me a hard time. She's not bringing this negative energy on me. They have to feel a sense of peace in order to even invite it. But if they see that there's no peace and they can see in the future that it could be destructive or it can be a potential problem, they're going to just stay away. They're going to wipe their hands clean of it, unfortunately. That's how that works. Roger, any final words? Conclusion, statements, any advice for men that may be a stay-at-home father?
Sure.
Or men just having that stigma.
Yeah,
like,
that stigma. Yeah,
just basically giving a different perspective in terms of stay-at-home fathers. Because like I said, especially younger guys, they're gonna have a different perspective because you know how the media and everything shows it to younger men. It's only until you get to a certain maturity where you can kind of understand the difference and different roles and be more acceptant to that. So
For sure. And I think, it's exactly what you touched on right there. It's a question of maturity.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff I hear out there, I really classify as being immature. The same guys that turn to me and say, oh, I couldn't be with a woman who makes more money than me, are the same ones that later they turn to me and they say, oh, I hate when women are so dependent on me and they want me to buy them this, they want me to buy them that. So it's like, what? Well, she can't make more than this, but she can't make less than that. You know what I'm saying? It's about really having that maturity to know yourself better. I think I feel very privileged to be able to have all this time with my son and to be able to really construct this bond with him and something that I think is going to be for the rest of our lives. And I would encourage more men to, even if they can't do what I'm doing, be a stay-at-home dad, just really try and dedicate whatever spare time they have to really trying to sort of nurture and spend time, with their child. And then again, just, in terms of redefining the genders and stuff like that, just people trying to become a little bit more open-minded to kind of these topics, to what it means to stay at home with your son, and again, to understand I'm not home with an apron on. I'm really doing something here that's very constructive.
Absolutely.
We talked. Sorry, I'll be wrapping up, but you talked about what love means and it having conditions and so on and so forth, and to me, love, one of those conditions is, I know it's corny again, but really being a cheerleader for your partner. And that means, really supporting my wife, that, the fact that she makes, I don't know, a certain amount of money is really saying, yeah, you know what, congratulations, go for it. Keep going, make more and more and more and more money. You know what I'm saying? And to all those guys who are afraid of that, man, I would say you should really get yourself a girl who makes more money than you.
Well, there you have it.
There you go. I appreciate the guests coming in today.
100%. This was a great discussion, and we hope to have more guests and continue down this journey of being far from normal. And this is the Far From Normal podcast with your boy Sonny Frames
and your boy Fuzzy Vision,
and we are out. Deuces.
The way you make me feel, I'm just trying to get my eyes.